The real Silent Hill. Inside the ghost town that has been burning since 1962, Centralia, path town that erased itself. An investigation into the real Silent Hill when you drive through the mountains of Columbia County in Pennsylvania. The fog often settles heavily on the winding roads. It is a region defined by coal, by hard work, and by the anthracite that fueled the American Industrial Revolution. But if you take a specific turn off Route 61, you enter a place that feels less like a town and more like a warning. There are stop signs at intersections where there are no cross streets. There are sidewalks that end abruptly in fields of overgrown weeds. There are driveways that lead to nothing but empty foundations. And if the day is cold enough, you will see the ground smoking dot. This is Centralia. To pop culture enthusiasts, it is the real-life inspiration for the foggy, ash-covered nightmare of Silent Hill. To historians, it is the site of one of the worst environmental disasters in American history. But to the people who once called it home, it is a tragedy of bureaucratic failure, lost heritage, and a fire that has been burning beneath their feet for over 60 years. The before times to understand the horror of what happened to Centralia, one must first understand what it was. It was not always a ghost town. For most of the 20th century, Centralia was a vibrant, tight-knit community of over 1,000 residents, occasionally peaking near 2,000. It had 5 hotels, 7 churches, 27 saloons, 2 theaters, a bank, a post office, and an energetic school system. It was a classic American coal town built by Irish, Polish, and Russian immigrants who worked the dark. Dangerous seams of anthracite coal that ran beneath the borough. The town owed its existence to the coal. The mineral rights were often owned by large corporations, but the town lived on the surface, blissfully unaware that the labyrinth of tunnels beneath them would eventually become their undoing. The mines were complex, honeycombing the earth hundreds of feet down. When the mining industry began to decline in the 1950s and 60s, many of these mines were abandoned, leaving vast, empty chambers filled with air and unmined coal. The spark, May 1962. The specific origin of the Centralia mine fire is a subject of some debate, but the most widely accepted theory, and the one cited in state reports, is ironically mundane. It wasn't an explosion or an act of terrorism. It was garbage. In May 1962, the town council wanted to clean up the borough's landfill in time for the upcoming Memorial Day festivities. The landfill was located in an abandoned strip mine pit near the Odd Fellows Cemetery. The council hired volunteer firefighters to clean the dump the way they had done in the past, by setting it on fire, letting it burn the trash, and then extinguishing it. On May 27th, they lit the match. The fire consumed the garbage, and the firefighters poured water onto the ash until they believed it was out. But deep below the surface, the fire had not died. The pit had an unsealed opening that led directly into the labyrinth of abandoned coal mines beneath. The fire, unseen and silent, crept into the hole and ignited a seam of anthracite coal. Anthracite is known for burning incredibly hot and incredibly long. Once it catches, it is notoriously difficult to extinguish. When the town officials returned days later, they found the trash flaring up again. They doused it. It flared up again a week later. They didn't realize that they were no longer fighting a trash fire. They were fighting the fuse of a bomb that encompassed the entire town. The slow burn and the denial throughout the 1960s and 1970s. The fire spread through the underground tunnels. Residents began to complain of foul odors entering their homes. It smelled like sulfur and rotten eggs. Many complained of headaches and nausea, classic symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. The state government attempted several excavation projects to dig out the fire. They dug trenches and drilled boreholes to pour wet sand and fly ash into the mines, hoping to choke the oxygen supply. Every attempt failed. The fire was too deep, too hot, and moving too fast. It moved through the complex geology of the coal seams, laughing at the puny attempts of surface dwellers to stop it. For years, a strange cognitive dissonance took hold. The people knew there was a fire. They could smell it. But life went on. It wasn't until the invisible threat became visibly violent that the panic truly set in. The warning signs, two specific incidents shifted Centralia from a problem to a crisis. The first involved a gas station owner named John Coddington. In 1979, Coddington, who was also the mayor, inserted a dipstick into his underground fuel tanks to check the inventory level. When he pulled the stick out, it seemed hot. Curious, he lowered a thermometer on a string into the tank. When he pulled it up, the reading was shocking. The gasoline in the tank was 172 degrees Fahrenheit, 77.8 degrees Celsius. The fire was directly beneath the gas station. If the tanks had ruptured, the resulting explosion could have leveled a city block. The second incident, and the one that grabbed national headlines, happened on Valentine's Day, 1981. A 12-year-old boy named Todd Dembowski was playing in his grandmother's backyard. Suddenly, the earth opened up beneath him. A sinkhole, 4 feet wide and 150 feet deep, appeared instantly. Todd fell in, grabbing onto exposed tree roots as the ground crumbled around him. The hole was belching hot, toxic steam containing lethal levels of carbon monoxide. Todd screamed for help as the mud sucked at his legs. His cousin, Eric Wolfgang, managed to pull him to safety just in time. Had Todd fallen a few feet further, the toxic gas or the heat would have killed him within minutes. This terrified the nation. It was the moment the ground itself became the enemy. The Great Divide and the be-out following the Dembowski incident, the atmosphere in Centralia turned from concern to civil war. The town split into two factions. One group believed the fire was an imminent threat and wanted the government to relocate them. The other group believed the danger was exaggerated, perhaps a ploy by the government or mining companies to seize the massive coal reserves beneath. The town, estimated to be worth over $1 billion at the time, scientific. Sensors were placed in homes to monitor gas levels. In some houses, the carbon monoxide alarms beeped incessantly. Families slept with windows open in the freezing winter to avoid suffocation. The stress broke marriages and ruined friendships. In 1983, a study concluded that the fire was burning on 3 or 4 fronts, and putting it out would cost over $600 million, far more than the value of the property in the town. The U.S. Congress allocated $42 million for relocation. It was a death sentence for the borough. Most residents took the be-out. Throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, Centralia was systematically dismantled. As soon as a family moved out, their house was bulldozed. The town began to look like a smile with missing teeth, and eventually a mouth with no teeth at all. The zip code, 17,927, was revoked in 2002. The holdouts, despite the be-outs and the danger, a handful of residents refused to leave. They cited their constitutional rights, their deep attachment to the land, and their belief that the fire had moved away from their specific properties. They became known as the holdouts. For decades, they fought the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in court. The state sought to use eminent domain to condemn the remaining properties, arguing that they could not protect citizens from the unpredictable nature of the fire. The residents argued that the state just wanted the coal rights. In 2013, a settlement was finally reached. The remaining residents, less than 10 people at the time, were allowed to live out their lives in their homes. However, once they passed away, the property would revert to the state and be demolished. They are the caretakers of a ghost town, living on streets that no longer appear on GPS. surrounded by the ghosts of neighbors who left decades ago. The graffiti highway for a long time. The most visible scar of Centralia was Route 61. The fire burning beneath the road caused the asphalt to buckle and crack, creating massive fissures. The state had to close a section of the highway in the 1990s and reroute traffic. This abandoned stretch of road became known as the Graffiti Highway. It became a pilgrimage site for tourists, history buffs, and teenagers. Every inch of the road was covered in spray paint names, drawings, slogans, and references to Silent Hill. It was a post-apocalyptic art gallery. However, the influx of tourists became a nuisance and a liability. The land was technically private property owned by a coal company adjacent to the town. In 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the owners decided to cover the Graffiti Highway with truckloads of dirt to deter visitors. The colorful road is now buried, much like the town itself. The science of the eternal fire? Why can't they put it out? This is the most common question. The answer lies in the geology. The mines are not simple tunnels. They are a chaotic network of chambers that are supplied with oxygen through thousands of cracks in the mountainous terrain. You cannot simply flood it, as the water drains away through the porous rock lower down. You cannot suffocate it, as air seeps in from miles away. The fire burns at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It moves slowly, consuming the coal seam inch by inch. Experts estimate there is enough coal underground to fuel the fire for another 250 years. It is a slow-motion disaster that will outlive everyone reading this article. Conclusion: the legacy of ash today. Centralia is a quiet place. Nature is reclaiming the streets. Trees grow where living rooms once stood. Deer graze on the lawns of demolished houses. The smoke still rises from the ground in certain areas, particularly near the cemetery, a silent reminder of the inferno below. It is a place of profound melancholy. It serves as a monument to the dangers of industrial negligence, but also to the stubbornness of the human spirit. The connection to Silent Hill brings the tourists, but the reality is far scarier than any video game. In the game, the monsters are supernatural. In Centralia, the monster was created by man, fueled by the earth, and is indifferent to the lives it destroyed. Centralia stands as a warning. The earth remembers what we do to it, and sometimes it strikes back with a fire that refuses to die. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or simply want to see more content like this, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps the channel grow and reach more people. And if you have thoughts or ideas you'd like to share, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.